T.O. plays.
Hey there, this is Tio bringing another Kerbal Space Program video. Today I thought I would do something a little different. Instead of using a normal scripted planned video, I'm going to do something on the fly. I've done a few contracts lately that I thought would have been interesting to show, so for a change I'm actually going to record my contract. If it goes well, great. If not, you get to see the pitfalls and how challenging some of these can be. So the contract I thought would be fun to show you is the recovery of Joe Bro and Joe Bro's debris from the surface of Duna. Typically, when I do recovery missions, I like to just recover a Kerbonaut. Whenever there's a mission to recover some debris, I usually uh, project that contract and try to get something different. But this time, because his name is Joe Bro, and you can't customize names. I love the name Joe Bro, so I'm gonna go and I'm gonna rescue Joe Bro and his debris from the surface of Duna, which is the analog for Mars. Another reason I was okay with accepting this mission is Duna's really not that challenging to get to, especially once you've gotten past the Mun and Minmus. It's not a lot of Delta V to get here, so it's very forgiving. It's also very short um, calendar year for Duna in relation to Kerbin, so you get a transfer window fairly often as opposed to some of the further out planets. Those don't happen as often. And I do use Kerbal Alarm Clock to keep track of all the ships that I've got moving around the system. But that's part of the reason why I don't like using contracts or doing missions that are far out because I tend to I don't really care for speeding up time an awful lot. So if you're playing on sandbox mode, it really wouldn't be an issue to go out and rescue somebody from Elu, for instance. Even though in the game that might take a decade. Um, in real time, you could speed all that up, and you're not worried about any other contracts expiring or anything like that. So anyway, let me get back to the mission at hand. Joe Bro and his debris. I've already taken the liberty of creating a craft and putting it in orbit. I've never flown this before on the surface of Duna, so I don't know how it's going to act in the atmosphere. But my plan is to obviously retract these solar panels, use the parachutes, and a little bit of the engines to descend, and hopefully not waste too much fuel on the descent because I need to use the rest of that fuel to get back up into orbit. At the bottom of the rocket, the bottom obviously the bottom is has been removed. So what you can see there exposed is a little rover. Those wheels will open up, and the rover will lower to the ground, and it's got a grabbing unit on it that it can go out. Actually, I could probably show you the rover. It's got a grabbing unit. Joe Bro will fit in there, and he'll be able to pilot it the rest of the way. We'll use the grabbing unit to grab his debris, hopefully, and bring it closer to the rocket, because I don't expect I'll be able to land the rocket too close to his debris. If I land it more than, I guess, 10 or 15 kilometers, I'm probably going to revert back to this save point and try again. Because any distance further than that, and it's just a pain in the butt to drive. But so long as I can get within 10 kilometers, I use this little rover to move the debris right under the rocket. And then there's a second grabbing arm connected to the rocket with a bunch of telescoping hydraulic cylinders and some actuators and stuff. So that's going to hopefully grab the debris, pull it up into the body of the rocket. I'm going to probably leave the rover behind. I mean, there would be no great way to bring it back. I could technically use the rover's grabbing arm to grab back onto the rocket, but I'll probably leave the rover. And anytime I have a future rescue mission, I'll just have to send a new rover. And this rocket should be reusable. I'll be able to refuel it in orbit and send it back down for another rescue if I ever needed to in the future. So that's it on the design of the rocket. Obviously, you can see the vector engines. Hopefully, those are going to keep me nice and have lots of thrust in atmosphere and out of atmosphere. So let's get started. Let's find Joe Bro. He's the only Kerbonaut on the map. Everybody else is in a vehicle. And I intentionally put myself into this polar orbit because I knew he was on the southern hemisphere, and uh, that could be challenging to get to. I'd waste a lot of delta V doing an inclination change. So with this type of orbit, technically I can just wait until I can speed up time until he passes under my orbit. So I'm gonna go ahead and quick save F5 so that I could reload from this point if I needed to. Let me get that nav ball out of my way and let's start speeding up time. So I'm not really focusing on me at the moment. I'm really just focusing on Joe Bro. Once this part of the planet gets under this part of my orbit, I'll start planning my descent. And again, because Duna's got an atmosphere, it's pretty tricky to pinpoint your approach. Let's see, so I'm on the other side of the planet. By the time I get to this side of the planet, he might be pretty close. I'm actually quick save here because I don't imagine I would ever need to descend earlier than this. And let's pull back up my nav ball, earn retrograde. Sorry if I sound a little nasally. I just had a sneezing attack a while ago. Let's see. There we go. Got our periapsis. I think the atmosphere in Duna starts at 50,000 kilometers, so anything lower than that should start to naturally slow me down. But the atmosphere doesn't start getting too thick. Honestly, I probably should have burned way over there. Let's see what this does. I don't think the atmosphere is thick enough to slow me down too much, so I'll probably be moving pretty fast. My touchdown point should be much further beyond Joe Bro. I can use my parachutes to slow me when I get to the spot I want to stop at. So let's see. Yeah, he's ooching a little bit closer. That'll be close. Technically, I could have lowered my orbit a lot, just above 50,000 kilometers, and circularized it there, and I would have passed around the planet quicker. And he might have gotten, I might have been able to dial in my position a little better. And right now, technically, I could burn. I'll just go ahead and do that. Let me add a maneuver and see if I can't just compensate. Yeah. Not using a whole lot of fuel, so that should be worth it. See if I can pass right over him and pop my chutes. And I think I will slow down here because I'm going to be too high in the atmosphere for my parachutes to do anything. So let me get my periapsis closer to Joe. Joe Bro. Oh. Not periapsis, my impact point. Alright, that's... Ooh, should I quick save? Let me do an Alt F5. Quick save 1. Joe Bro. Jeez, come on. First pass. Okay. I'm not gonna warp just yet. Let's make sure I've got an action group for my solar panels, because I do want to retract and extend those pretty easily. Toggle solar panel. Yep. And yep. Well, I can just do the. Oh, I'm in the atmosphere now. Yeah, the top of the atmosphere. Let me retract those panels now. Don't want them to rip off by accident. And I'm heading in retrograde, so I'm in moving, facing the right direction. Fortunately, in the atmosphere, you can't speed up time more than 4 times, so I may speed this up for you guys. Okay, now you can start to see Jobro there on the horizon. Oof. Let's see. I'm going to actually change from retrograde to prograde so that my craft stops trying to correct itself. May try to give myself a little more distance using the vector engines. Don't want to burn too much fuel doing this. Not super familiar with how much I need to get off of Duna, but I imagine it's at least 1,000, so I might have already ruined my chances. But I'll be within 10 kilometers, like I originally said. That was my goal. Oh, you know what I forgot to do? I forgot to change the altitude on my parachutes. They're not going to want to deploy until way too late. Okay, yeah, 6.5 kilometers. I can live with that. You can see those parachutes. Well, no, they're not all fully deployed. I've still got a few at the top. So, oh, and there they go. 16, 15 meters per second. That's still going to be too fast. On Duna, you can't rely purely on parachutes. So, definitely going to use my vectors to slow down right before I hit the surface. And then these landing struts should absorb the rest of the impact pretty well. Let's go ahead and speed up time a little so we can get down to the surface. Oop. Oh, oh. No, dang you. Oof. That's a little trick that sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. If you're gonna tip over, you can give a nice big blast to the engine. It'll shoot you back off the surface, but then you have to burn retrograde to the surface just fast enough so that it'll spin you back around before you hit the ground. That doesn't always work. I'm glad it did. So now let me Alt F5 again. Jobro first landing. And let's detach our rover. I can't actually control Jobro until I'm within a kilometer of him, I think. So I can't use him to do anything just yet. I'll send the rover, which should have an antenna, and let's see. It is staged, yes. So I believe, yeah. When I open my landing gear, it also opened the rover's wheels, which is good. So hopefully, when I hit the spacebar, it should just drop nicely to the ground. Yeah, I'm playing that. All right, and yeah, whatever antenna I put is good enough. Apparently, I guess just that little guy. Yeah. Oh yeah, I've got signal to my station flying over Duna. Okay. So let's change. I guess I'll leave my steering. Oh gosh. Brakes. No. Okay. Need to figure something out. Use the steering disabled. Steering disabled. So only on my front two wheels will allow me to steer, and then I'm going to turn off. Yeah, maybe that's what's causing me. No, it's not what's causing me. I thought maybe my SAS was causing me to tilt funny. I don't know why it's acting that way. That's strange. Usually the wheel turns, but the whole craft doesn't cock to the side. This thing is acting squarely. Control from here. Yeah. Why? You're embarrassing me in front of my friends, Rover. You guys see this? It's not even driving correctly. It feels like it wants to crawl around. I don't know. I don't think it's because of the gravity on Duna. I've driven other vehicles and they behave much more normally than that. All right, so this is going to be a slow drive. I'm definitely going to speed this up. But for you guys, it should be quick. But for me, 3.5 meters per second to go 6 kilometers. This is gonna suck.
So yep, this drive took me a good 15 minutes. So thankfully I can speed it up in post. Never did figure out why it was wanting to tilt over so much. I disabled the brakes that you saw. I made sure that it was controlled from the correct module, but it didn't perform much better than that for the rest of the drive. So, c'est la vie. I do decide to change my settings in the middle of this drive because I'm driving in the middle of the night, but the terrain and everything looks lit up, and that's because of my light settings. So I do go ahead and adjust my light settings to something like, I don't remember, 10 or 20% ambient light boost, so that it'll get a lot darker here in a second. And I'll leave it on that setting for the rest of the video. I don't know if I'll keep it that way. You guys can post in the comments. To me, it looks more realistic and it makes it more interesting, but it does make it obviously darker and harder to see the footage. So I guess any moment now you should see me go into the settings and adjust my lights. I think once I actually turn on there you go, I turn on my lights on the craft and realize, oh, it doesn't really change anything because my ambient light's been boosted. So that's what it should look like on Duna. Nice and dark. And because I got my target reticle, obviously I know which way I'm headed. So, yep, just time warping and trying to keep my speed reasonable. I feel like anything more than 15 to 20 meters per second, and if you happen to take a tumble in your craft, it tends to want to explode. So I'm glad see that you just saw it actually spun out of control and something broke, but thankfully nothing critical broke. So here I am approaching the final target within a couple hundred meters. So yeah, that's about it for the drive. And I'm about to change control to my Kerbal. There's a little.
Now we're picking up speed. I don't want to be. Do I want to be above it? Maybe I want to be above it. I don't know. I'm tempted to just turn here. Okay. I just don't want to. Okay. There's his debris. Yeah. Cockpit. Hopefully it doesn't roll down the hill. That would be catastrophic. Alright, Joe Bro. See if you can get in there with the arm where it's at. Nope, you cannot. So let me. Hopefully that's what's causing the issue. Let's raise that all the way. Heck, let's even raise that. You're gonna get it. There you are. Now Joe Bro is in the cockpit, so I can actually change to cockpit view. Just like Mark Watney, stranded on Mars. Now I'm going to Alt F5 this for sure. Joe Bro first cockpit, or first debris grab. So let's lower the first hinge back down to 0. And this one's going to need to be about like that. Another option is I could. No, I can't, because this can't turn more than that. So let's back straight up into it. Let's try to back straight up into it. And I'm going to control point reverse. That didn't help at all. Control point normal. Alright. Will it grab? No, it did not. Yes, it did. Okay. We grabbed it. Brakes. Slow down, you. Is it going to be enough? Are these hinges strong enough to pull that bad boy? Oh, without tilting the... Oh, don't want to do that. Maybe I didn't make this vehicle big enough. Well, let's try dragging it and see how that works. I wanted more traction, and I might have gotten it. And now for the long haul, back to the ascent vehicle.
So as long as dragging it like this works, I might not sweat it too much. I think a couple times I do lose a little bit of control, but again, as long as I keep the speed low, time warping in the game just makes it appear like it's going faster than it is, but less than 5 meters per second is pretty darn slow, so not super concerned so long as it stays slow like that. But once I start going downhill, it's difficult with the traction that I have to slow down, so I do need to keep my eye on my speed. That's why sometimes you see me tacking left and right as opposed to just going straight towards the target, because I'd rather go on a slight incline than a sharp one. So sometimes I'll take the long way just to make sure I get to the target without flipping and blowing up. I don't want to have to reload the game and waste all the mileage and the progress that I've made. But yeah, I'm definitely worried when I get to the ascent vehicle that it's going to have enough fuel to get back into orbit. And I guess we'll see when we get there. This thing's not handling as well, obviously, going there as when I reached the pod in the first place, because now that I've got that extra mass in the back and it's not grabbed perfectly center, it's kind of wanting to drag my wheel to the left, but it handles well enough. In the future, I'll probably bring a bigger rover that can handle a lot better on its own, you know. Or in the future, there you go, I just broke off another panel. In the future, I probably just won't accept these sorts of missions. Again, only pick this one up because Bro's got an interesting, unique name, and you can't pick your Kerbal name. So if I find a good name, I'm going to go ahead and rescue that Kerbal. So.
Okay, so now that I'm coming on my final approach, I guess I'll explain what I've had plenty of time to think about driving this squirrel of a vehicle. I'm obviously genuinely concerned that I have enough fuel in the ascent vehicle to put this thing in orbit. I didn't have an efficient enough burn, I guess, getting here. Didn't expect to use any fuel, obviously, from the lander, and if you saw from the video, it was more than half empty. So I don't know that it'll be able to make it in orbit, and if it doesn't, then all of this was basically for nothing. If it can't make it to orbit, I've got two options. One, I can just send another better lander and keep using this squirrely rover and just drive to the next lander and try to land as close to this side as possible. Another option, I noticed that Joe Bro is an engineer, so he could. He's not he doesn't have any stars yet, meaning he's not leveled up, so he's a 0-star engineer. I'm not sure if at 0 stars he is able to repack parachutes, but if he can, then technically I could also just load all this up into the rocket, pack the parachutes, and still land a new rocket, but I don't need to drive from one rocket to the other. This one I could try jumping back in it, loading up, packing the parachutes, and then flying to the landing zone of the next rocket. But I'd really not like to bring another rocket down here if I can avoid it. If I can get into orbit, even barely, that'll be enough. I do have another vehicle waiting in orbit that'll come and collect Joe and the payload. And if I need to, this ascent vehicle can be expendable, or if I ever wanted to come back and refuel it, I could. I've got a refueling tug as well I could send. Yeah, so right now I think it's in orbit around Ike, full of fuel. Okay, so I also thought about how I'm going to hand this payload off from the rover to the ascent vehicle, and I've decided I'm going to leave it attached to the rover, and I'll grab it while it's still attached, and then I can detach the rover after the fact, because I'd also I'm really still concerned that this thing's going to roll down the hill. So all of the surfaces seem to be an incline, so it's actually dragging right now, which is stopping me from backing up. So I may have to. Oh, there we go. The game was just lagging for a second. I think it was doing some kind of quick save or something. That might be close enough. Yeah, that should be close enough. Okay. So let's switch over to my rocket. This should be fun. I've never tested this whole mouflage, so hopefully it functions well. Let's start unpacking it. Guess I can wait to arm that. Let's get you open. Let's see. Yeah, at 0 it should be straight. Yep, it is. Okay. Yeah, I'm actually much closer to it than I need to be. It might make it even more difficult to grab it. And let's test you out just a hair. Open. Nope. I don't want to control. Oh no, I done messed up my camera. Okay, yeah, control from here. So, should be directly over it. Anybody ever played the game Claw before? And it works. Alright. Oh, okay. Oh. Also, one perk of it being attached this way, I don't have to release Joe from the lander and have him walk up and get into the craft. Let's see. I thought Oh yeah. So I've got these crew pods, the Mark 1 command pods on each side. He could sit in there. I thought I'd actually also put an external seat somewhere so he could sit in. Although technically he could stay in the pod. So let me transfer him without doing an EVA, which would just add some unwanted complication. I think I'm going to put him back in his pod. That would probably be the easiest. And then I will release. And drive off just a hair. Alright. And I guess I can shut off the lights and bid you adieu. I hope to never see you again, honestly. Really surprised nothing significant broke off. I actually don't even need the solar panels. I didn't realize how nice these RTGs are. When I started playing KSP, I didn't use RTGs at all because I misunderstood them. But now that I understand, they never run out of fuel. I thought surely something like this would, just like the batteries, would have a lifespan if you don't recharge it some way. But no. This thing runs forever, so as long as you've got enough output for whatever you're planning to use it for, which in this case, apparently 2 RTGs is more than enough to run 6 of these Rovemax MF1s, M1Fs, sorry. So the solar panels were absolutely unnecessary, and those batteries are probably overkill as well. Probably could have done with one of the little ones, or a couple of the little ones. Anyway, now for the moment I've been dreading. Hopefully the pod is light enough. Yes, okay. This is going to be tricky. I'm going to need to raise it a little more than this. Go that way with that hinge, while I go this way with this hinge. This is going to be squirrely. I definitely do not want the pod swinging around too much, especially under the engines. So maybe it'll be all right. I don't think it's going to get any better than this. I don't think I'll be able to tuck it into any position where it's not going to just move on its own. So maybe straight down is the best I can do. Glad I didn't put more pistons than this. It's roughly in the center, so if I just straighten all of the hinges, then it should dangle directly under the ship. Is there any other hinges not straight? That's close. Okay. That'll have to do. Could definitely revise the design on this thing and do something a little better next time. I'm still doing okay on battery because nothing's really been running while I've been gone. So let's Alt F5. Oh, well, quick save number 1 will do. I was going to name it something. Joe Bro Liftoff. And now for another challenge. What's my heading going to be? I think I need to go clockwise. Yeah, to match the orbits of all the support crafts. Let's see. Yeah, there's my salvage return. It's equatorial where I am not, so I'm gonna have to burn some fuel. But I've got, once I get in orbit, I can make pretty much anything work. So as long as I'm heading clockwise, that should work. Let's see. Can't even see my north heading. Okay, there's my north heading. Going that way, I think. Here goes nothing. Well. I don't think this is going to work, but hey, that was worth it, wasn't it? Yeah, this thing isn't controlling very well. I know I'm going to crash, so at this point I'm really just trying to test what can I do to gain a little more control. So retracting the landing wheels, the landing struts, probably hasn't done anything. I've got no RCS thrusters. I don't think there's anything I can do to control this thing. Did not expect it to be so squirrely. I'm out of charge too. Well, sorry, Joe. I'm going to have to come back and get you with something better. Let's see if I can at least save Joe if I want to. Yeah. Nope, you're traveling way too fast. Let's see. 100. I don't know if we're slowing down enough. Yep. Oh, he survived that. How did Joe? Alright, so technically Joe's alive. If this were real life, I'd just send something else to get him. But let's load our last save point. Okay, take 2. It's going to be a pain in the butt to send another vehicle, so it's worth trying to salvage one last time. 1 second try. So one thought I had was lowering the thrust on the vectors. I think they're probably overkill, and that could be causing some of the pain. Um, I mean, I know for certain part of the problem is how this payload is just moving around so much, so it's throwing the center of gravity around. Um, what else? What else? I'm controlling from the correct point, and my control point is default, which means I'm facing the sky, which is accurate. And I could try to tuck in the cylinders, but that again, they're not strong enough to withstand the forces. So I think lowering the thrust on the engines is going to help stop that pod from moving around, that Mark 1. I was trying to remember. I knew it was a Mark. I didn't think it was a Mark 2. When I said it was a Mark 2, it's a Mark 1 inline cockpit, which makes it different from a regular Mark 1 cockpit. I think or Mark 1 just has a nose cone, whereas the inline does not have a nose cone. Okay. There's nothing else I think that I can adjust. I must have been controlling it from the wrong control point last time because my north heading wasn't visible on the nav ball. I wonder if I was controlling this thing from the pod, from the Mark 1 pod. I bet you that's what it was. Okay, so I've adjusted. Let's do that. Turn on my SAS and one more time. So I'm at max throttle. If I can get my apoapsis above 50 before halfway running out of fuel, I'll feel pretty good about it. Oh yeah, this is behaving much better. I'm pretty sure I was controlling it from the Mark 1 cockpit instead of the probe core. That would explain why every time I was trying to use one of my markers to navigate, it wasn't behaving well. Yeah, the fuel's not looking good. Fuel is not looking good at all. I can't imagine that's going to be enough. Let's see. There's a sunrise for you, Joe Bro. That looks pretty. Let me slow down time. One of those might be a good enough shot for a thumbnail. We are at 50,000. All right, so we're out of the atmosphere with 134 meters per second left. Meters per second left. Oh yeah, it's not nearly gonna be enough. Dang it. Okay. Well, everything else on the design was just barely sufficient enough, except my fuel. So if I'd just gotten the thing here more efficiently, I would be in orbit right now. So I'm gonna go back to the drawing board and send a better rocket. I'm not even gonna try to salvage this. I'll actually revert back to my original quick save and do all this from scratch.
Well, that about wraps things up for this video. I will be filming a part 2 where I'll actually show the entire mission from build to launch to execution so you guys can see. Obviously, things don't always go your way, and this was a great example. I decided to leave the footage in because, hey, I'm human and don't always build things right the first time. But I appreciate you tuning in again. If you liked anything in this video, you got anything out of it, hit the like button, leave a comment. Appreciate you, and I'll see you next time.